And welcome to Your Money, Your Life. And we have Mr. Sherrill Braswell here in the flesh this morning. Thank you,
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
coming. Good morning. We want to talk about something today that is you're all going to listen to because you all feel the pain.
Yes.
We feel the pain.
That is the truth.
So what are we talking about today?
Inflation. I just want to try to do a little bit of some things that drive inflation, and particularly over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, what some of the things that have happened that cause it. And also, hopefully, that we'll start to think about, how can we affect that
Right.
over time. And we can, you as a consumer and more importantly as a voter can impact what's going to happen here.
Well, every time we go to the grocery store, we know inflation is going on. And how bad is it, Sherrill?
Well, this is my this hit me last night. There's a little ice cream shop in Nashville, and I went in there within the last couple of weeks. Grandkids were over there. We went to get an ice cream cone and all that good stuff. And the ice cream cone that I remember 2 years ago, maybe roughly, was about $2.50, just a little small ice cream cone. Today, that same thing is $3.50. That's the simplest way to explain inflation.
Right there.
That's it.
And typical.
But you have to. I mean, this is things that I have learned through the years just reading, and you always hear on the news they'll talk about the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and how that's tied into inflation, and how it talks about inflation.
Right.
But there's a lot of other things that happen because, according to this Consumer Price Index, inflation is like around maybe 8%. Well, here's another thing that I know personally from running a business, and I know you guys buy paper.
Yes.
You've got to have paper in this office probably.
Yes, we do.
And 3 years ago, I could go to Office Depot and buy a really good copier paper for $20 to $22 a pack.
Right.
Now, that same pack is $44.
Golly.
And
Unbelievable.
some of them are as high as $80. I mean, insanity. I bought a bag of dog food yesterday, and it hit me for the first time.
Wow.
I'll go buy things like that, and I won't look at the price because I don't want to look at the price.
Yeah, you can't. You got to have it.
But
Your dog's got to eat.
Yesterday, I looked at the price, and I realized that maybe a year ago, I was paying about $37 for that bag of dog food. Yesterday, it was $51.
Unbelievable.
Craziness.
Well, cereal.
Craziness.
Cereal, $5 and $6, and mayonnaise.
Yeah.
A $2.99, $3.99 item is $6 for a jar of mayonnaise.
Yeah, and
it's golly. And I have to have mayonnaise on everything.
Everything. Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, and the pandemic and all that madness that went on through all that definitely has had a huge, part of the problem is coming through that, because you had a big surge, because of some of the things we're going to talk about, a big surge in demand during that period of time.
Yes.
And it outstripped production. So, that was also part of your supply chain disruptions, and when those things happen, prices go up pretty quickly. And, another thing that we all get hit with is gasoline has averaged almost like 14% inflation every year for the last 3 years.
It's terrible.
It's nuts. It's
Well,
nuts.
Don't forget, we're talking about food, we're talking about all these other things. Don't forget rent and housing.
Yeah.
What about that, Sherrill?
Zillow, their numbers show that over the last 2 years to 3 years, that rents have gone up 12% a year over that period of time. And we all know, you think about the housing prices over the last 4 or 5 years, how crazy they have been, and they kind of leveled out a little bit, I think, here recently, but they're still, way on up there. Still way on up there. No question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it.
So what effect does inflation have on the job market?
A lot. For the first time in many, several decades, we've now got more jobs out there
Right.
than we've got people applying for those jobs. And, to the workers, people applying for jobs, well, it gives them, gives that person a little more leverage in maybe negotiating their,
Right.
Their salary and things like that. But the downside is you've got chronically in every business short-staffed.
Right.
It's hard to find, people to come to work, and so that business is not able to really operate at full capacity.
Well, people have decided that they do not want to work for minimum wage or low wages anymore. COVID did that. We stayed home in our pajamas. I didn't. But we stayed home in our pajamas and realized, oh man, I can just get up in the morning and turn the computer on and not have to do anything and get my coffee and just, and people don't want to work.
And it's the other thing that has suffered horribly in every business, like in me dealing with different companies. I could pick up the phone, call whoever it was, Aetna, Blue Cross, whoever it was.
Right.
And I could talk to, hey, Sally, how you doing? I'd been talking to Sally for 5 years, and she'd been there for 20 years. So she knew how to get things done.
Right.
Now, when you call, the majority of the times you're talking to someone who unfortunately sounds like they're 12 years old.
Right.
And they're obviously reading off a script, and if you don't respond to what's written on their script,
right,
they don't know what to do.
They don't know how to.
They do not know what to do.
They don't know how to respond if it's not something that's on their script.
The things we could accomplish in an hour's worth of phone calls over 2 or 3 days, now's taking weeks to get done, and it's it's not good. It's not good.
No,
Same
it's
thing
not.
I know that to me one of the industries that suffered really badly with this and still having some issues with it is like restaurant business. Food business.
Gosh, boy, they suffer.
Yeah, trying to find people who are just have some skills talking to people. Working with the folks behind the food.
We have lost some good restaurants because of this,
Yes,
and
we have.
we're going to have to be understanding because these restaurants, they are suffering. They do.
I make it a point. We have a new, quarter mile from my house, a new Dollar General store. And I have got to give them credit. And I actually went in there the other day to get something. And I told the manager, I said, I'm just telling you, man, you guys are doing a good job with training your folks.
I've been in there, and you're right.
Yeah, I have been pleasantly surprised with what a tremendous, how they receive you and talk to you and try to help you. That has disappeared for a few years.
And they say hello when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
acknowledge me, please. I'm fixing to spend money.
They don't look the other way. They look at you and talk to you. So that's a good thing.
So now, what about these stimulus checks? Have they affected inflation?
I really and truly feel like that's been a huge part of the problem because
it has to.
We had I think 3 stimulus checks over about a year's period of time, and I think the first one was probably beneficial because everything had been shut down and people were still in the freak out mode.
Right.
Wondering what in the world is going to happen.
Right.
And I think the second time we got a check wasn't really necessary, and the third time was absolutely, not necessary. But, what happened was all of a sudden people have cash. They're sitting there watching TV all day long because they're not working.
Right.
And so they went on a spending spree. And so you buying more stuff. I mean, we had a bigger demand than we normally do, and now we've got, the factories are shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So that contributed to supply shortages.
Right.
That was a big part of it. I feel like that was a big part of it. And obviously when you've got 15 of these things and you sold 12 of them and you can't get it replenished, well, the price on those last 3 or 4 pieces is going to go up.
Right.
So that just, you just expand that to the whole economy. As things shorten down, the price is going to go up.
Right.
And again, like you think about this too, the economy was shut down. I mean, businesses were closed.
Mm-hmm.
So that also is a contributing factor, because those small businesses, man, that's 50% of the economy or more.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Their impact on the economy. So,
now, is the economy, is inflation as bad in other parts of the world as it is here?
yes, I mean I looked at a chart the other day of inflation rates. It named about 15, 20 different countries, and the United States was like smack dab in the middle. The official inflation rate was 8.5%.
Okay.
The highest official rate that I saw was 20%, and it was one of the smaller countries in Europe. I forget which one it was, but policies, economic policies affect way beyond their borders.
Right.
I mean, think about us. Okay, everybody's sitting at home during COVID, going on Amazon and QVC and buying things that were made in China.
Right.
Well, guess what? We had the most buying power of any country in the world, so we're buying those things, and we're creating shortages everywhere else.
Right.
Because China was having the same situation. They had closed down businesses, and so the supply gets shorter and shorter, and it gets harder to replenish it. So the other countries out there who, they're having shortages because we're buying everything. And then, think about this: Russia invading the Ukraine, that caused oil prices to go up.
Absolutely.
So, policies in different countries affect everybody. Everybody's affected. We do have a global economy a lot. Pretty much we have a global economy.
Well, Sherrill, looking back, what are the root causes from 4 years ago of inflation?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at things and look at human nature and what we normally do, I really and truly believe that too much stimulus money came out, and people stayed home. And you think about this, it's not just this generation, but people who had not been in the workforce at that point in time. All of a sudden they're like they're home, they're watching mom and dad get a check for doing nothing,
right? And
maybe they're getting a check for doing nothing, and they have not developed that work ethic that's necessary, to really make an economy work. And they're sitting there buying things,
right?
So you're buying all this stuff. Again, the supply gets disrupted because we're not producing, we're not replacing what we're buying. And the other thing too that I really believe caused a lot in cost, or one of the driving factors, was the price of moving things around. I mean, shipping. Yeah. Be it by truck or by boat. Right. I read 2 or 3 different articles, and they were talking about the cost of moving by truck has gone up on average 30% a year for the last couple of years. Boats or shipping, by ship, containers and things, up 35%. Well, that's got to be recouped somewhere. And, if it's just like, again, the restaurant's easy to understand, because if all of a sudden I've got to pay $2 for a loaf of bread instead of $1, exactly, just to maintain what I've been doing, I've got to pass that dollar along. So, to me, I think those couple of things really had a big overall, impact on what we do.
Sure.
And so you need to pay attention to your politicians and see who's giving away money.
Exactly.
Because
yes.
that does not help.
Voting
obviously.
time is coming.
That's right. So think about that, y'all. Think about that.
Exactly. Well, Sherrill, this has been very enlightening this morning. We talked about something that is affecting everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody out there. There's nobody that's not affected. So
True.
thank you for talking about this topic this morning, and we will see you back in
Yes,
2
ma'am.
weeks. All right. We'll be right back with you right after this and some local weather.